Oh, that's good. And we'll do the countdown here. So Barbara, go ahead and kick the meeting off, please.
With this bell, I welcome you. This is the night of 1st of June. Can you believe it? We're in June. And June has many opportunities for us to celebrate peace and to bring the environment into our awareness. This Saturday is World Environment Day. And as you know, Rotary now has a new focus on the environment. So we're really pleased that we're going to be able to focus on it. But today, one of my oldest friends, and she's no longer on the planet, but her name was the Peace Pilgrim. And she said on June 1, this was in today's message for peace and joy, one little person giving all of her time to peace makes news. And this is us. Many people giving some of their time can make history. And that's my dream for our Rotary E Club of World
A
Peace.
lovely thing
Yeah,
to say.
make history. That's my dreams. Now, the Peace Pilgrim was born in 1908. She was very wealthy and she wasn't happy. And I know her, I knew her personally before she died in 1981. She was the first woman to walk the Appalachian Trail in one season. She walked for peace. She had nothing but her wonderful t-shirt, if you want to call it that, her pair of pants, a toothbrush, and she said that people will feed her as she walks along. And she brought nothing with her. She gave everything away. And she did this in 1953, starting in Pasadena, California,
Wow.
and walked across the United States for 28 years. And I thought, what a model that you can do this. That somebody has a little noisy part of their thing going. Maybe it's me, but anyway, it's so wonderful to
Wonderful.
find
Thank
our
you.
peace
Ask
heroes.
everybody to mute themselves.
All right, with that, I'm going to turn to Rudy, and maybe Rudy, the noises are stopped, so we can go right on.
Yeah. We'll, as I introduce people here, then mute yourself, please. So we're all ready for our speaker tonight. This is a great evening here in the U.S. Of course, we have just wrapped up Memorial Day, honoring those who have sacrificed, made the ultimate sacrifice here, and which is extremely important to do. But obviously, you can see Karen's on with me. She's at the other part of the lake here. Dee is good to see Dee up in Illinois. Carol's out in the desert. Catherine is down under in Tomorrowland with Ben. Ben, I keep asking Catherine to give me the lottery numbers so I can win, but she never gives them to me. Since you're a day ahead, I figured you would already know what they were. David's up in Ashland, of course. Julie, good to see you tonight. Mark's relaxing in Hawaii. Barbara is, she didn't tell anybody they named the city after Santa Barbara, but that's good. Brian Berman is creating peace in Ojai, California. Irene, good to see you tonight. Bob's out in the desert, Cathedral City. Warren, good to see you. Everything's good up north?
Well, it's 95 up here.
Okay, you can keep it. That's good for you.
Yeah.
Tony, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Just finished driving from Rosarito all the way to La Paz and back. So we just
Wow.
had a long trip.
I bet, yeah.
So it's nice to be back.
Good. Peggy is with her garden in the background up in Evanston. Lisa, good to see you. Jack is over in Santa Barbara. Mark Zober's in early hours of the morning over in Israel. Mark,
Indeed.
Thanks for you joining us. Give our best.
Always
to
an
Marilyn.
honor. Thank you.
Yeah, Peter, how are you tonight?
Doing well, thank you.
Super. Ann Ben is our expert on eliminating nuclear weapons in the world, and a leader in that arena. So we welcome her in that area with us tonight. Fergal McCarthy. Fergal, good to see you. Fergal is the director of all our peace efforts out of Rotary International. So it's great to have Fergal as a member of our club. Always. Arthur is our film producer. Arthur, good to see you tonight.
Yeah, good to see you. And I heard you say you were down here near Rosarito. Anybody coming down to Baja or Rosarito,
come visit us. You're right by my home here. So I would love to have you come join the beach.
That's good.
And by the way, we have a wonderful podcast tomorrow on Gaza with the American Friends Service Committee and the Center for Emerging Diplomacy at 10 a.m. I put it in the chat.
Yeah, put that in the
So,
chat box. That's
Look
great.
what everybody's doing here. Keep up the good work.
Yeah,
Here's
super.
Barbara.
Julie's holding up a picture of the Peace Pilgrim. Julie, she
Oh.
wrote a book. Her foundation wrote this book. There she is in her glory. Thank you, Julie.
Julie, wait, let me see that. I don't see
Yeah.
you. Julie, where are you?
And
Hold
she's,
it up again.
and she's on
T-shirt
that.
and all.
Yeah, Anya, good to see you. You're not catching cold, are you?
There it is.
No,
Oh,
no,
Peace-
no, no. Nice to be here.
Yeah, good.
I knew Peace Pilgrim. I gotta show you.
I think Tim Lettingham's on his phone there. Tim, good to see you from your phone, I guess.
Yeah,
You
this
might
is
want,
Tim. I'm on my phone due to some noise in the environment here.
okay. Yeah, you might want to mute yourself once you are off there. We get a little bit of feedback from you. Sharon, how are you?
Can I jump in 1 second?
I can't mute.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Can I jump in 1 second? This is Peace Pilgrim's shoes. I have the actual shoes. She finished her 25,000-mile walk for peace. I framed them and put them on my wall. I don't know how well you can see it through the glass.
How did you get those shoes?
This is, well, she stayed at our house there in Washington, D.C. when she finished her walk, and we bought her a new pair because there's a hole worn right through the sole. And so I kept her old pair, put in a glass thing to protect it. But these are the original shoes she finished her 25,000-mile walk for peace in.
That
So,
used to
I'm
make me
thrilled.
cry. Thank you.
And her book is incredible. She's such an inspiration. She was an inspiration to me in my life.
Well, when I met her, it was probably she died in 81, so it was in the 70s. And she was so cheerful. You know, she had walked so many miles, yet she was working for peace. And she said, like, as I said, one little person can create news, but people working together can create history.
Yeah, she was so inspiring, and she walked 25, she kept walking the rest of her life, and she was never afraid. She never brought money with her. People always would just give her help, and she's had like rapists who brought her to a truck, expected to kill her, and they couldn't do it. Her spirit was so powerful, and they were won over, and they were in tears, and they just said, "I'm just so grateful to you." The stories of how she turned people's lives around just with her spirit.
She was in prison too. They even put her in prison for being a vagrant. And their cellmate was so violent, she just sat there. She didn't say a word. And the cellmate stopped his anger. She didn't say a word. And then after he was calmed down, she said, "I'm the Peace Pilgrim." Said, "Oh, you can imagine what he said." And then she just talked to him in a normal voice with love. And he calmed down and they had a night. But that's who she was. Thank
Yes.
you, Rudy.
Super. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that. Ya is on with us. Ya, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Super. Charlie Riggs, thanks for visiting us. How are you tonight, Charlie?
Good. Thanks for having me in.
Scotty, good to see you. You keep in that dark room hiding there.
Turn your lights on.
I'll get one of those round lights eventually, but in the meantime, it's dim around here, but bright in our hearts, and
There you go.
hoping to all of us to continue our work and improve what we see around us that needs improvement.
That's super. Yeah. We're glad to have you as part of our team here. Good stuff. Good stuff. Andrea, how are you? I guess you're joining us up in the mountains tonight.
Up in the mountains, been testifying all day. I'm really glad to be part of you guys and be here. This is necessary.
Yeah, good. Good. And Richard Denton's on with us. I'm up in Canada. And I don't think I've missed anybody, but it's
Sharon?
and Denise is on too. Denise, how are you?
Unmute
And
yourself, Denise.
and Belinda's here. Richard, hi.
Hey, everyone. Hi, Rudy.
Hey, how are you? There she is.
Nice to see you, Belinda.
Hi, guys. Nice to see everyone.
Did you catch Sharon? Dennison?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Well, I think I've,
If anybody's been left out, raise your hand and we will not leave you out.
or just shout out.
Rudy,
So-
you do such a good job. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is great. So Great seeing everybody tonight. And without further ado here, because we have a great, exciting program tonight to share with us. And David Wick, would you please introduce our speaker for tonight?
With delight. So I am very, very pleased to have Ben Bowler come to join us this evening. And, you know, as we all know, and we all participate in various ways of peace building and activities, and many of us for years, many, many years. And, you know, we're in the great transition, transition from the unsustainable ways that, you know, our countries, our lives, you know, have been in so many ways. And, you know, and it's hitting the fan. And it's, you know, big changes in so many different levels, and the green shoots and the new ways are emerging, and the ways coming forward are happening and being found and being co-created. And that's what we're about, is peace building and focus on world peace, but, you know, at every level, with ourselves individually and with our own hearts and our relationships in our communities, as well as on the, you know, national and international level. And Ben is one of those leaders. He is one of the leaders of bringing people together with inspiration and energy that is just incredible. And it is just wonderful that Ben is able to join us this evening. And he also just had mentioned a little earlier, he's interested in joining the E-Club, which is fantastic, it's outstanding. So I'll just give you a little bit more information about him. But Ben has so much to share, and also with, you know, I'm sure to talk about the World Unity Week that is coming up, and we have 9, you know, presenters from our E-Club that are going to be part of World Unity Week, and he'll tell us more about it. But, you know, coming together is fantastic. So let me just give you a little bit of information. Ben Bowler is the executive director of Unity Earth, a global network building a worldwide movement for unity and peace. In 2006, he and his wife, Jilvu, moved to Thailand to volunteer along the Thai-Burma border. In 2008, they founded Blood Foundation together, an NGO focusing on education projects. In 2008, Ben founded Monk for a Month in Chiang Mai, offering men and women the opportunity to experience Thai temple life and temporary ordination. In 2015, at the World Parliament of World Religions, Ben launched iGod.com, an online platform aimed at countering religious fundamentalism, relativism, and Western materialism. Since then, he has worked to build Unity Earth into a global platform that can support and empower the many grassroots movements working towards unity and peace in the world. Many grassroots movements. So he's a weaver, he's a leader, he's an inspiration. So welcome, Ben.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, David, and Rudy and Barbara and everyone. Thank you for that beautiful, heartfelt welcome. Let me say what a great honor it is to be here with all of you. I have tremendous respect for Rotary as a global organization and a grassroots organization, one of those special organizations on the planet that is both grassroots and global. So it's an honor to be with you, and particularly the E-Club of World Peace. It's something that's very, very close to my heart. And I can tell you, just in the few minutes I've been here with you in the room, what an extraordinary, uplifting group of people that have come together from right around the world. It's tremendous to be here and feel the heart and the peace that's in this space. So it's an honor for me, David, to be joining you today, and thank you for the invitation. I understand, you know, the idea is to talk a little bit about my journey and how it unfolded for me and how we ended up doing the work that I'm doing. And it is one that's ultimately a bit, you know, filled with mystery. And I think many of the pilgrims on the path, and it's been fascinating to hear the talk about the Peace Pilgrim. What a beautiful soul she sounds like. and how wonderful that we still have her shoes, Arthur, there to preserve it. That's tremendous. But I think, like all of us are peace pilgrims in a way, and everybody certainly here in this room. And when your friends or family or people in your circle might question what we do and our commitment and our calling, I'm not sure about you, but for me, it's not always that easy to explain. Why do we do the things that we do? Why are we called to follow this path of peace, of unity, of evolutionary progress, and enlightenment of humanity and of the planet? It's ultimately a deep mystery, and I think any calling at its heart has got a good dose of mystery about it. And yet there are some things in my life and my childhood and my upbringing that I can point to and that I can say this was significant for me. Certainly one that is foundational for me, and I'd love to share with you, is I was born into something very, very special, which is that my father, Jim Bowler, he's still alive, he's 91. He's an earth scientist from country Victoria, and ended up studying at the Australian National University up in Canberra. And then in the mid 60s and around the end of the 60s, he was out doing some work in a remote area of Australia, which nobody really knew anything about. He had seen some aerial photographs, and the aerial photographs had some land formations to him as what they call a geomorphologist, which is kind of like a specialized geologist that deals in the shape of the land. He was noticing certain dunette formation. So he went out there to investigate, and he found a series of ancient lake beds. Now, his reason for being there was to study climate change, looking at the ice ages over the Quaternary period of the last, 100,000 years or more. But what happened when he was out there changed his life, and actually changed the whole country of Australia and our understanding of human history, because and not because he was looking for human remains, but through natural erosion, ancient human remains revealed themselves to him. And in 1969, he uncovered what became known as Mungo Lady. And now this is in the 60s, when Aboriginal people didn't even have the right to vote in Australia until 1963. They were hardly even classified as human. They were looked down upon. They were seen as inferior. The science of the time was measuring their craniums to prove that they were almost a subclass of species. So this discovery in 1969 of what became Mungo Lady was a fully modern human being. And the other significant thing about that was the scientific view in the 60s was that Aboriginal people had been in this country for about 10 or 12,000 years, maybe something similar to what scientific view is for how long Indigenous people have been in the Americas. But this human remains were 42,000 years old. And so fully modern human being at 42,000 years old, completely changed. And everything changed here in Australia. That science of measuring the craniums and trying to prove the inferiority of the Aboriginal people just stopped overnight. Aboriginal people came up and started, demanding land rights and claiming that 40,000 years of continuous heritage meant something, and continuous culture meant something, as it does today. They are the oldest living culture on Earth. And a few years later, an equally or perhaps even more remarkable discovery was made again by Jim out on the dunes of Lake Mungo, which was a full skeleton of Mungo Man. And this was 1972. And Mungo Man was uncovered as a complete skeleton and was ceremonially buried, covered in ochre, which is a precious color, a figment that was not even local to that area. They would have had to trade it from hundreds of kilometers away. And again, 42 to 44,000 years old, ceremonially buried. So expression of consciousness and the afterlife at that antiquity is mind-blowing, even calling into question, how did these people get there? The whole out of Africa theory and some of the fundamental aspects of science were questioned by these discoveries. So this informed my whole life. Mungo Man was found in 1972. I was born in 1973, and we grew up with it. And it changed history here in Australia, and it's changed, for the 300,000 to 400,000 Aboriginal people here in Australia. It's a very significant discovery. So in a sense, I was born into an intercultural dynamic. I spent quite a lot of time out in the desert with my dad, in the fields on Aboriginal lands, even including in the center of Australia, and had amazing, remarkable intercultural experiences. He also did extraordinary work in China, which was a very significant experience for me. In 1985, I was fortunate enough to go and spend 3 months in far western China with one of my sisters and my mum and dad. And I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so this was just the 2 youngest. But we spent 3 months out there again for my dad's work. And for a kid from the suburbs of Canberra, which is a very middle class, well-planned kind of ordinary Australian suburban location, to go and be dropped into this extraordinary culture where there were no other Westerners. I mean, the occasional backpacker was coming through, but where we were in 1985, it was before the Cultural Revolution, really. It was before they'd reopened the country. And, I was a 12-year-old, and it definitely blew my mind. We also got to sit and engage and visit with Tibetan communities at that stage as well. So just sharing some of this, David and friends, to give you a bit of a background as to how perhaps my formation came about, of feeling called to work in an intercultural, interfaith, interspiritual context. Always fascinated by religion and spirituality, in particular its diversity on the planet. How can there be all these different religions and they all claim to be true? It always fascinated me. And how do they connect with each other? How did they relate to each other? How were they different? How were they the same? This was always of profound interest to me. So when later in life we got to have the adventure in Thailand, and you mentioned that in that bio there. This was 2006, and an opportunity came out of the blue. My wife at the time, Yilda, was from Holland, and we were living in Australia, in Melbourne, and an opportunity came to go to Thailand and to volunteer for a free schools organization. Actually, there was a Rotary connection there as well. They were supported by some Rotary communities as well. But the organization Free Schools was a Canadian NGO, and they had schools set up on the northern part of Thailand on the Burmese border. So we went there to volunteer for a year. We ended up staying for 6 years up in that part of the world. We had 2 children born there in northern Thailand, and it was a very powerful formation again for me in that context. It was a really learning experience being there in the north of Thailand, working with refugees coming from across the border in Burma. So we were really called for a social justice component, and one of the longest running civil wars in history was inside Burma. Now called Myanmar, of course, but between the ethnic minorities and the Burmese military regime, there's been a conflict which has been raging for more than 50 years, and there are hundreds of thousands of migrant refugees that pour into the poorest border in Thailand. So we were setting up education programs and income generation programs for them. And that was a great experience, a beautiful part of the life chapter. But through then, and David, you mentioned it, through a friendship with a Thai Buddhist monk at the time, we initiated a program called Monk for a Month. And that's really the beginning, I guess, of Unity Earth in its essence when we started that program, because in Thai Theravada Buddhism, it's common and usual for men in particular, less so women in Thailand, that lineage has died out of the nuns. But the Thai men all of them will take a month or 2 or 3 out of their life, out of study, out of work, out of family, and join the temple. And it's just something you do once or twice or 3 times in your life. And it struck me as a really beautiful thing as part of their own formation of their own life journey. So I asked the monk at the local temple in this remote area if we could create a program that would open this up to visitors, and he immediately said yes. So we put it on Facebook, and people started coming from all over the world, and Monk for a Month was born. It was a deep, authentic immersion into Theravada Buddhism, and definitely a beginning point of the story. Soon after that, even as early as 2010, we then began a program in Turkey called Muslim for a Month. Now, this is at the height of Islamophobia, and our methodology was, well, let's have some firsthand experience. Everybody's got a commentary. Everybody's in the news and the media as perspectives and things to say about other cultures. What about giving people some firsthand experience? So this program was an immersion program. It wasn't a month long. It was more like 10 days, but it was a deep dive, staying with Turkish families, living in a Sufi lodge in Istanbul, studying Turkish Islam, even going to Konya, where Rumi is buried. And I'm sure many of you will be familiar with Rumi. His mausoleum in Konya in central Turkey is one of the most powerful pilgrimage sites in the world. So this program had Jews, atheists, agnostics, Christians, people of all different persuasions doing it. It ran for a number of years. And again, it was another step in the journey for us. And the more that we ran these programs, we realized just how incredible people were in every different tradition, every different culture, every different faith, every different ethnic, had, these amazing leaders and these peace pilgrims, if you like, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, et cetera, et cetera. And the more we did the programs and sort of innovated these programs of, I guess, spiritual tourism, they were in a sense, what really happened is, I got transformed in the process, and I got to meet and connect and make friends with these extraordinary people all over the world. One of the other programs we did was in Ethiopia, which was a deep dive into Orthodox Christianity in Ethiopia and the Rastafarian experience. So, really understanding what a Rastafarian serious faith commitment looks like, and being exposed to the teachings of Haile Selassie, who's another exemplary peace pilgrim. His presentations to the League of Nations in 1936 and his historic address to the United Nations in 1963 are foundational, future peace prophecies. And so, being exposed to Haile Selassie was very powerful. So more and more and more of these experiences unfolded from Ethiopia to Turkey to Asia, and then India. We began running Monk for a Month, ran for nearly 10 years up in the Himalayas in a Tibetan tradition. And so out of this, one of the next things that happened was I attended the Parliament of World's Religions in Melbourne in 2009. And I was very excited to attend. It's my hometown. I'm here in Melbourne, coming to you from Melbourne today. The Dalai Lama was here, and several cardinals from the Catholic Church, and high-level representation, not just from every religion, but there was a lot of focus on gender issues and nuclear non-proliferation and social justice, and really powerful content. And this great gathering of 10,000 people, and this is so exciting, and I attended it and I was amazed. And then I was looking in our local press and I found virtually nothing about it. And it really struck me about the challenge that we have. As soon as there's something negative in religion or anything, but as soon as there's something negative, boom, the media are all onto it. And something powerful and profound and positive, as the Peace Pilgrim said, it's hard to make news. I love that quote, Barbara. It's one person can't make news, but a group of people working together can make history. That's a super profound quote for certainly my contributions today. But understanding that it's so hard, uphill battle for us to get press for the good work that's going on in the world, and why wouldn't we want to shine a light on all these amazing things that are happening and the positive developments in, the environmental aspect and social justice and all the things we're progressing on. But then realizing there's no point complaining. I mean, it's not the media's fault. The media are just giving us what we want. The media is just a system that's designed to give humanity what it wants. And if there's a certain kind of excitement people get from something negative or schadenfreude or whatever it is, there's no point just complaining about it. We've got to be strategic about moving it forward. So my reflections upon that was, let's add something kind of fun and culturally appealing to the interfaith movement. And that was really the creation of what became the first U-Day festival. So that brings us up to 2012. We're a couple of years in planning. As you will remember, everyone was excited about the end of the Mayan calendar. Well, not everyone, but lots of people were excited about the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. And we were one of those groups. We're living up there in Chiang Mai, and we thought, let's do an event that brings culture and music and festival, and let's be a part of the solution here rather than just complaining about how bad the media is. So we did the first U-Day festival, and we had Grammy-nominated artist Pato Banton and his wife Antoinette Hall come out, and other musicians and Thai musicians, and our Islamic friends came from Turkey, and our Buddhist monks were there, and Christians and interfaith, and some indigenous content. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful beginning on the 21st, 22nd of December 2012, where so much was being born around the world or that day. I don't know if you've ever noticed how much got activated and initiated on those 2 days, but we were a part of what Barbara Marks Hubbard and Stephen Dinan had done for Birth 2012. They put together a beautiful global synchronized, 2 or 3 days of events. And we were one little pinprick on that global map with our event U Day 2012. Now the U, we started off calling it Universal Day and then Unity Day and then Uni Day. And we thought, hey, let's just leave it as U Day. And that became the first U Day festival. And it was a beautiful, powerful, blessed beginning. It was full of good spirit and great energy and amazing connections and beautiful things that happened there. And that was the 2012 December. From there, we then moved on to in different ones. You mentioned, David, the formation of OneGod.com. So OneGod was a media platform that had contributors who were Hindu and Sikh and Christian and Islamic and New Age and pantheistic and pagan and so many others, including some agnostic and even atheist views on there, but really to hold the space that there are infinite number of ways for us to relate to and describe the ineffable mystery of the universal source and center that many people call God, some people call the universe, some people call source, some people call life itself. And even if someone's highest concept is Gaia, the Mother Earth, whatever it is, that we all have a pinnacle concept and understanding that we are connected to one unified reality was a very important part of that platform and that program. And it was beautiful. And we had music and art, and we launched it at the Salt Lake City Parliament of World Religions in 2015, again, with music and song and spirit. It was a very powerful step on the road. Soon after that, and as a direct result of that, I met Kurt Johnson. And for those of you who may not know, Dr. Kurt Johnson is an extraordinary evolutionary leader. He's the author of the Coming into Spiritual Age. And I got to meet him through a series of synchronistic events, which came out of our launch of OneGod.com at the Parliament in 2015. And in connection with Kurt, everything opened up. I mean, Kurt was so generous in connecting us to his whole vast global network. And at this stage, we were preparing for the second U Day, which was in Ethiopia, where we established these relationships. And so once we really started to connect and evolve and go to the next level, we recognized and realized that OneGod wasn't a brand that was going to be able to hold and capture everything that we were doing with the environmental aspect, with the indigenous aspect, with certain religions that find that word confronting or difficult. And so out of that space and urge to have a brand a platform which could really include everything that we were already doing, out of that Unity Earth emerged about late 2015, 2016. And really it's been that Unity Earth has been our platform and our brand ever since. And the series of events which became known as the Road to 2020, it's wonderful to see Avon Madison here. Avon, it's so great to have you here in the space. I'm delighted to be here with everybody. And the series of events which then unfolded it's just extraordinary. The Mungo Man that I mentioned earlier, since 1973, had been at the National University in Canberra for more than 40 years, to the great heartache and pain and suffering of the Aboriginal people and elders who really wanted their ancestors returned to country. So in 2017, November, after much hard work and lobbying, the ancestral remains were returned to country. And we, as Unity Earth, were part of supporting the elders to put on a big celebration and a great ceremony and event with famous Aboriginal musicians and artists, and brought dancers from all over the world. It was an incredible healing cultural moment for all of us, and the Return to Country Festival. And this is in a way the real beginning of the Road to 2020, although in October 2016, we did launch the Road to 2020 at Tillman Chapel at the UN, which was really the ceremonial beginning of this global series of events. The Return to Country of Mungo Man being one, the Crestone Convergence being one, and then on to Ethiopia for U Day 2018, which was an amazing week in the United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week. And we had spiritual leaders, religious leaders, indigenous, musicians, artists, activists journey through the holy site of Lalibela, down the Rift Valley, concerts in Addis Ababa, an incredible program at the African Union, and then down to Shashamane, which is the spiritual heartland of the Rastafarian. I mean, this was an epic dream of an event, and it happened in February 2018, and it changed our life. There were ceremonies there and communities and coming together. And one of the hallmarks, I think, David and everybody, was that it was all done in partnership. It was done in partnership with the United Religions Initiative, Ambassador Musi Hailu in Ethiopia, incredible activist and doing amazing work. And everything we've done, every step along the way, has been a collaborative effort, a co-creation and a powerful teamwork in becoming manifest. So UDay 2018, and then there are other events. There was the Parliament of Religions in Toronto. There was the Unity Earth Liftoff in New York. There was the Varanasi Convergence in India, again with incredible participation. And then February 2020, last year, we had really what was the pinnacle, which was the gathering in the Holy Land called UDay 2020, which was 7 days, once again in UN World Interfaith Harmony Week. And it was in the Holy Land across Palestine, Israel, and Jordan in partnership with EcoPeace Middle East, who are amazing, nearly 30-year-old activists, Jordanian, Israeli, and Palestinian, working for ecological peace building in the Middle East. If you've not heard of EcoPeace, and if there's nothing else you take away from today, look them up. EcoPeace Middle East. They are absolutely amazing. And so we were able to work with them, and it was all about the water, the Jordan River, restoration of the Jordan River, which is in a terrible state because of how the water is used and abused in that part of the world. And it was 7 days of, Buddhist monks and Muslim leaders and spiritual leaders. We had a priest from the Vatican. I mean, we had an incredible we had reggae stars. And I mean, there was 100 people moving across this war zone, essentially. And certainly one of the most I can't imagine anything more extraordinary that happened than that. So it really was a pinnacle. And out of that, we had all of this momentum, all of this belief, all of this good faith, all of this goodwill, this vast network of organizations, and we're getting ready for the Caravan of Unity across the United States, which was the culmination and the pinnacle and the whole sort of climax of the road to 2020. Now, it's funny when people would ask me, what happens after 2020, Ben? What are we doing here? You're spending all this time and effort and energy. What's going to happen after 2020? I had to be honest and say, look, I got no idea, because it wasn't a strategic plan. It wasn't a 5-year, like, let's do this and then let's do this and let's do this. It was a mission of which the author was not us. And so in all honesty, we had to say, I don't know what happens after 2020. And who could have foreseen what did happen in 2020? I mean, I can tell you this, within weeks after praying at Megiddo on that Holy Land Living Water journey, and Megiddo is known in the Bible as Armageddon, and we had our American Native representatives and all the faith traditions and all the indigenous traditions that were with us praying to stop the war and praying for peace. It was actually called the Armageddon Peace Declaration. And within weeks of that, the world had shut down and war had stopped. So, there's a very deeply mythical aspect to this journey, which is hard to describe, but only can really be felt. But in that process, out of that global shutdown, like everybody, we were faced with the very complicated logistical challenges of what are we going to do? We have this momentum for the Caravan of Unity across America, but we're in a situation now where we can't do it in the way that it was going to be. And we had lined up Grace Cathedral in San Francisco and the Baha'i Temple and even the National Mall in Washington. I mean, these major stops, and many, many others beside. So out of that space, around about this time of year, a little bit earlier than this, something emerged which became World Unity Week. So World Unity Week was really the fruition of the whole decade-long journey of building and weaving and connecting and building relationships and partnerships. All of it went into World Unity Week, and it happened in a deeply emergent space without even too much effort. We had 120 global organizations come together to co-convene World Unity Week, which is around the mid-year solstice, which, it's the summer solstice for most of the planet, but here in the south, it's winter. And it is the World Refugee Day on 20th of June. Of course, it's the UN International Day of Yoga on the 21st of June. And it is the anniversary of the signing of the UN Charter on the 26th of June, and many other things around that sort of constellation of important days. And so we threw a blanket around it and created World Unity Week. And through the genius of John Raymer and the Sign Network, the design was not merely to just have presentations, but to give everybody an opportunity to have a platform, to give everybody an opportunity to come in and present your gifts, your work. We're hearing before about the amazing work that this group is doing, Police to Peace, that Lisa's doing, and the incredible work that Barbara's doing, and so many of you. And I know David's harvesting some of this for World Unity Week this year, and I want to make sure we cover that. But how it emerged last year was really through this deep partnership and collaboration of co-convening. We co-convened together. And by the way, I am delighted that through the agency of Avon, David, and all of you, that the E-Club of World Peace is a co-convener for World Unity Week in 2021. We're very, very excited about that. So 2020 came, it was beautiful. We had great participation. Deepak Chopra and Jane Goodall and Marion Williamson. We had great, high-level participation. And even more importantly, we had hundreds of presentations of equally amazing people, perhaps lesser known, sharing their programs and their initiatives and their music and their creativity and their art. And it's a beautiful space for peacemakers to come together and find each other and to learn about what each other are doing and having a common experience and shared experience. It was amazing. 8 days. Our friends at the United Religions Initiative have their birthday. I shouldn't forget that, on the 26th of June as well. So much happened, and it was powerful. So we had, I think, 25 convergence rooms running simultaneously. There was so much content and incredible communities. We had thousands of people join. In the end, I think the video views from last year were about 750,000 video views across the event. So it was a good beginning. It was a good beginning. And then when at the end of, we did end up, and I'm really proud of this, we did end up doing the Caravan of Unity in September last year. August the 28th, we were at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, that incredible sacred site. I know Avon's extraordinary history with that place, and its history in the International Day of Peace many years ago, even back in the 80s. So there was, we launched there, and of course everyone was in masks and no audience. But we were live streaming it out to a world, a beautiful musical program put on by musical director Gary. And it was Gary Melkin. And from San Francisco, we went to an interfaith event in the synagogue in Las Vegas. We went up to Colorado. We went across the country. We're in Nevada. Amazing, just incredible content across the whole month. We had a roaming crew that was actually had what we call in Australia a caravan, what you guys call a trailer, but actually went across the country, and they filmed all these amazing events all the way to New York and Washington, and New York for the International Day of Peace, which we threw a blanket around Peace Weekend, and then on to the National Mall in Washington, D.C., where it concluded. So at the end of all of that, once it was all done, and Arthur, I know you got your hand up. I'll take a breath in a minute, and we'll come to some questions. At the end of that, upon my reflection, the 2020 had ended, and the road to 2020 had ended around December, January, February. I took some deep time to reflect and came back with really clear, what are we going to do next? What is our road forward from here look like? And rather than Unity Earth and myself trying to do 5 different things or 8 different things every year, our determination was just to focus entirely on one thing, to pull all of the resources, all of the networks, all of the relationships into World Unity Week, and to build it out year on year on year as a space which we can really start to feel that united spiritual experience with each other and feel that world peace. And there's some really exciting things about this coming World Unity Week, which of course is just a few weeks away, that I'd love to share. But let me take a pause there. Let me take a breath.
Ben, let me also share that the information about World Unity Week, Karen put in the newsletter that was sent out to everybody. So please take a look at the newsletter, because the details are there. It's the week of June, well, actually 19th to 26th. but the programs are going to be that we're involved in are the 22nd to the 25th. And like I said, we have 9 presentations or engagements from our E-Club right here. So please go ahead with the question and answer.
Yeah, beautiful. And just really briefly on that, I can tell you we're very, very excited. Not only does World Unity Week again have, high level participation from some, famous names now. Paul Hawken has confirmed, and Jane Goodall confirmed again, and others, which is great. But what's really exciting is we are consciously reaching out into many different demographics. It's a very intergenerational, intercultural. There's lots of content coming from Africa, from India, from Europe, from different parts of the world, from the Middle East. EcoPeace Middle East are doing great programs. We've got the Vatican coming on and doing programs from the Dicastery of Integral Human Development. We've got, groups that are really into kind of cosmic stuff that are maybe on the fringes. We've got Burning Man communities. We've got a deep immersive experience through Sparkle. We are deliberately and consciously building networks and relationships across a vast spectrum. And rather than, what we realized, Barbara, is that we don't have to convince anybody about anything. All we need to do is to connect with the communities of conviction, like this one, to connect with the communities of conviction and say, you belong here. We all belong here. And to allow and build a space where everyone is welcome. And so that's our intention, and that is providing conditions that are allowing vastly distinct and different groups to show up together, whether it's the Vatican, whether it's Deepak Chopra, whether it's New Age, whether it's Burning Man, whether it's the youth coming from Africa doing incredible social projects, or in India working on modern day human slavery, or whatever it might be. There is extraordinary breadth and depth of contact. And we are delighted, David, with your stewardship of the town hall and the 9 programs that have been submitted. And there's still time for anybody who wants to host an event. There's still another week or so for you to fill that participation form out, but we're excited. And we're just taking a step this year. It's really about building and building. We're going to build on that and go forward into the next year and beyond. So thank you. It may have taken a little bit long to cover the whole story there, but I really appreciate the chance to share with all of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Ben, that's terrific. Thank you for sharing that. And we've got several questions here. We'll start with Arthur, but please keep your question very short because Ben has to be off here in the next 12 minutes. He's got another call to get on. So please get your question short. Arthur?
Well, we're thrilled to be part of your Unity Week, and so glad Karen put it in the newsletter and to be part of that, creating it. And especially, I was thrilled that you mentioned the EcoPeace thing. I went to that, and that's exactly what we're having a podcast tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Merle Lefkoff of the Center for Emergent Diplomacy and the American Friends Service Committee that has very active programs in the Middle East. And my daughter actually happens to be heading their DC office. And I'd love to invite someone from the EcoPeace to join us in that tomorrow, because that's exactly the crucial issue, the resources that are at the behind some of the
Okay, question, Arthur.
So how can we collaborate on that?
Well, I think, tomorrow might be a bit of a tight timeline. I know these guys are pretty, they plan weeks in advance. It's hard for us to get them to events without giving them a lot of notice. So it may not work out for tomorrow, but I think the intention of connecting with them, they're hosting a couple of events during World Unity Week, and there'll be an opportunity to form that relationship. So what we don't fulfill in the short term, we can make sure we fulfill, make sure that we do get it fulfilled. So I think that the opportunity to connect with them during World Unity Week will be present. And, let's hold that then forms an ongoing relationship that can be mutually enhancing.
Thanks, Ben. Ann Frisch. Ann, unmute yourself.
Ben, very powerful story. Thank you so much. Do you have any reason for optimism that the kind of experiences that people are getting in your work are going to keep us from blowing each other up?
Well, Anne, I know it's a serious question. And I think we all oscillate between optimism and despair. I think it's natural, and it's probably honest to acknowledge that. And it's probably good to acknowledge that. I certainly have my moments. But I do believe that there has to be a way forward. I feel that it's deeply. And the other thing is too, when we come together and we experience, one of the things we're doing this year that I want to share is we're really having an immersive experience. We're literally creating a world together called One World. So the One World is a virtual representation of a world. And on that world, you've got the town hall, and David with others is stewarding that space. You've got the temple, you've got the forest, the water, the river, the city, and you've got all these different spaces, a music hall. And we're curating an actual experience and of what it feels like when we are in that service mindedness, when we're showing up in our gifts and co-creating in a way that's not the old power dominant model, but the new way of the heart. And to experience that through an event like World Unity Week is transformative. And if we can do it for a period of a few days in a space that's largely online, then yes, that does give us hope and momentum and optimism and belief, most critically, to go forward and to face the challenges we have. One thing's for sure, if we believe we have no hope, then we're right. So it's important for us to find ways that we can experience that hope and experience and renew that belief. In fact, if there was an overarching intention for World Unity Week, it is to reignite or to ignite the fundamental belief that we can turn the planet around in a good direction in the time frame that we have without further destruction of species and other loss. Now, that may be a fool's hope, but unless we try, we'll never know. So it definitely is something that by coming together and experiencing and meeting each other. And the last thing I'll say in answer to your very serious question, Anne, is we don't know how many we are. Paul Hawken wrote Blessed Unrest in 2006, where there are millions of organizations, grassroots organizations around the planet. We don't know how strong we are. We don't know how powerful we are. We don't know how resourced we are, how numerous we are. And by coming together and experiencing that there are groups of people around the planet, in every country, in every city, in every demographic, and every passion area you can conceive on, and many you can't, it's bordering on infinite. So in terms of us coming in and connecting with our own power, yes, I have hope and I have optimism because of you.
That's why I was going to put the word optimism in there. You took it right out of my mouth, because when you have optimism, you look for solutions. You don't just sit around and hope that this gets better. You have optimism, which brings you into new solutions, new connections. And I just cannot stop talking about you, because you are one of the men who are creating this vision that we are one world. And the astronauts told us that. But now you're coming in with the reality of putting people together. And thank you, David, for making sure we heard Ben.
Okay.
Unbelievable. Thank you.
That was super. Do we have any other questions here for Ben tonight?
I did look up your father. Man, I don't know. You two could change the world. I looked your father up on my iPhone when you were talking, and I'm thinking, this man has created an opportunity for us to realize that we're all have ancestors. These ancestors have left us their DNA, and we have to honor that. They didn't come to this planet to bring horrors to us. They came to bring peace. What do you think about that, Ben?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a deeply mystical and mythical reality to which we're all born into. The Aboriginal elders that Jim formed relationships with in those early days of the discoveries, Barbara said, "You didn't find Mungo Man and Mungo Lady, Jim. They found you." And so the Aboriginal people believe that these ancestors revealed themselves to my father for a reason. And that's a very profound thing to reflect on. And yes, we are here together at this time to not just change the world, but really to create a new earth. And I really do honor Avon and her pilgrimage and pioneering work. And we talked about the Peace Pilgrim before, and we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, every single one of us. And, together in that power and with that love and that respect and that energy, everything is possible. Everything is possible.
Yeah. Ben, as you know, and certainly through your father, Aboriginals have not been treated very well on all continents, and certainly we have our opportunities over here in the Americas and in the United States. Canada is beginning to do some work on it. What's your feeling about how we do a better job recognizing our First Nations and first citizens of the world here, that we help them reclaim their cultures?
Yeah, Maria, it's a big question. Again, thank you. For me, and I'm sort of dawning on me just the role and the importance and the significance of repentance. And we need to repent. I mean, you can't even have truth and reconciliation unless there's some form of repentance. There's a lot we all need to repent for, collectively, individually, and connected to our cultures and our tribes. And me as a white Irish Australian settler of this land which was labeled terra nullius, which is a legal term for empty by the British, denying of 60,000 years of continuous culture, is a lie. And it's a lie that's had horrendous repercussions and suffering. I mean, horrendous. Stolen generation here in this country and many other things. I think it's going to take some time, a deep introspection and reflection. And I think we need a year of repentance at least to really begin a process of starting to be truth tellers, and let alone, walk towards our own healing, not just for Indigenous people or for other victims of oppression, but for all of us, for ourselves.
All right.
Thank you. Melissa Hunt said here, what is the project that Jane Goodall is going to speak at?
She's speaking with Chief Phil Lane Jr. They're talking for 2 hours about everything from leadership to Indigenous repatriation, the sort of stuff we're talking about, healing the human family, unifying the human family, being one with nature, talking about water. They're going to have a 2-hour dialogue, which is going to be pretty amazing. And if you give me a moment, I can even tell you exactly what time it is as I look it up on the Trello board here. But Jane and Chief Phil are going to have that 2-hour dialogue, which is going to be broadcast. And I'm looking it up. It is June 23rd at 12 noon EDT to 2 p.m. EDT on the 23rd of June. So, yeah, don't miss that one. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great dialogue between Chief Phil Lane Jr. and Jane Goodall.
That's super. David, you got any further comments here?
Yeah, just in terms of when you say, it's a mystical situation. One of the things that Irene, Ty, my lady and partner here, learned and really being is just being present. It's being present and being open to what is being called for, being open to what the movement, the inspiration is. Because there's, a whole lot, you can't figure things out. We do what we can, but a lot of it is what presents itself. And if we're alert or we're attuned to being able to hear and see what's being presented.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said, David. I couldn't agree more. And, our conscious minds, our planning and our forecast and our, rationality has led us to the brink of disaster. So maybe it's our intuitive selves that's going to get us out of here. And that deep listening that doesn't know what the future is and doesn't know exactly how it all turns out, and is able to be comfortable in that ambiguity of not knowing. It's important. It's important. It's sometimes challenging because we like to be able to give answers, and we like to be able, especially if you're trying to raise money, tell people what you're up to. But there's a deep emergent aspect here, whereas we don't know, and we're listening deeply. We trust, and we're learning to trust our intuitive selves again. And there's a lot more we could say.
Will you have a session, Ben, that we can listen to at this Unity Week? Will you have a session?
I'm going to be involved in a few different ones, Barbara, but there'll be not as personal and intimate as this. This is kind of off the record chat, but there'll be some presentations I'm involved in, and there'll be lots of other more extraordinary, incredible people than me in your World Unity Week, which is good.
You really hit it on the head. We have this moment with you that nobody else is getting. And that's why we record it, because now we can tell people, if you really want to know what Unity Week is about, come to our website and look up this wonderful talk. There's no way we can thank you for what you've done in your life, but you are a model that we can follow. And I always believe that when we hear a speaker, we take 3 actions away. And I think your actions are to definitely join Unity Week, and give us 2 more. What else should we do?
Oh, well, definitely join World Unity Week. I've asked you to look up EcoPeace Middle East, which you will do, and really support the programs that that this group is putting forward. Not just by showing up, by publishing them, supporting them, share them on social media. You know, David's really jumped into the deep end here, and it's great that there's 9 events from this E-Club of World Peace. But I would call on everybody to be an enthusiastic, willing partner, not just for the first mile, but for the second mile, to make sure these events are successful and well published.
Well, thank you again, Ben. My heart is full and my mind is full of ideas. What can I do next? Because I think we have to all be that 100th monkey that allows us to intuit and to know that our minds are very powerful. How we think is how the world goes. And I'm so glad you're going to have Paul Hawken and some of the other great people. Thank you so much. I don't know how to say thank you enough, but thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And bless you. And the Peace Pilgrim, if she were alive, she would be so honored to have heard you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Barbara, and I look forward to a continuing relationship. I do thank Avon again for connecting us all. And again, what a beautiful, uplifting, positive, international community this is. Deep, deep bows to each and every one of you and to you as a collective. And I'm excited not just about the next few weeks, but beyond that as well, as we can continue to rise and shine.
And
Together.
Adrian was the first one who said pathways to peace. Just think about those words, pathways to peace. And may peace prevail on earth. We all have peace poles. May peace prevail on earth. And with those words, we thank you again. Avon, thank you for your creativity and your belief that peace is going to happen. And thank you, David, for being part of Pathway. And I can thank everybody on this program, because we're all peacemakers. And we believe with our actions, so shall peace go. And Rudy, I thank you for bringing us all together again with your wisdom and your wonderfulness. And Karen, this is not the end of the show. Wait till you see the newsletter Karen put together. I am so impressed. And Karen, I want to thank you for your weeks and weeks of figuring out how fellowship makes us all complete our bodies and our minds. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again, Ben. And Rudy, you want to say the last word tonight?
No, thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week. Ben, take care. We will be sending you some information so you can become a member of our club.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.